Mike and Ron. Here to help. Here to help. Here to help. All right, Mike Sasson, Dilip.
Ron Bush.
We are here. Ladies and gentlemen, all sentient beings throughout the multiverse that is listening to this transmission thousands and millions of years from now, you are watching the Mike and Ron
Here to help
podcast. And this week, Mike, I am stunned. I am excited to
I'm both of those things as well.
Absolutely. We have
A third person.
the third person, the magnificent Mr. Dilip Khatri here. First of all,
Thank you.
thank you for being here, Dilip.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dilip is, me and Dilip work together, number one, in the restoration industry. He is a highly respected structural engineer. And how long have you been doing that now, Dilip?
43 years.
40, so a couple weeks. Yeah. He's written papers. He's a publisher. He's written papers. He speaks at conventions. He has middle-aged women chasing him down the street with their panties. It is.
You say the word engineer and then look like that. Yeah, I can understand. The middle-aged women are kind of going after you.
Yeah,
And you are single, correct?
Yeah,
I am single.
So then, single,
Yes.
educated,
yeah.
Dudley looking. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's all
And
over
I'm
the
not-
place.
And I'm not on parole.
Yeah, he's not yet. Yeah, not yet. Not
And
yet.
I
Hopefully
don't-
that remains
And
the
I
truth.
don't have any outstanding warrants, and there are no child support orders.
Wow.
How'd you pull that off?
Careful.
And you have how many kids do you have?
One son.
You have one
There you
son.
go.
Absolutely.
But and you're not taking care of him currently.
Well, he's living with me.
Oh.
He came back. He wants to go and pursue, of all things, he's a graduate with a degree in engineering.
Okay.
He worked in engineering for 4 years,
Alrighty.
and he hated it.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
So he wants to be a musician.
Oh wow. See that?
So,
Yeah. Well, it's better than a comedian.
well, no, it's fine.
But he wants to be a funny musician. You know.
He loves techno, and I had
How old is he?
31.
Oh gosh. Okay. So
Yes.
that's a little old to be finding techno.
No, he. So what happened was he was pursuing this, and we had our disagreements. We had our issues, obviously. But then I said, I don't want to be my dad.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
So I made peace with him, and I'm helping him to, he agreed. At least we agreed on a diplomatic level with the European Union agreement.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
We agreed with the European Union agreement that give it 2 or 3 years, and if it doesn't work, then he's agreed that he'll go back to engineering and pursue his
And
career.
then eventually there'll be a Brexit, is what you're saying.
No, there won't be a Brexit. There'll never be a Brexit. I don't want that. I don't want. As I said, I decided to take a new foreign policy.
Right.
More of a live and let live.
I got you.
Well, you have
Let him have his space. He's exploring it, and believe it or not, he convinced me in the last 2 weeks we are going to a techno concert
There you
next
go.
Love it.
weekend.
Well, he's been to Burning Man.
I've been to Burning
Okay.
Man 3 times,
Yeah.
All right.
so I'm taking him to this techno concert, which is called the Subterranean Culture or something like that in the middle of the Mojave Desert
I love it.
next weekend.
You're gonna have a blast.
Yeah. So, it's all going to be a bunch of 20-year and 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
But he wants to perform at places like Coachella, and he has quite a following. So
Nice.
hey, I said, all right, look, Herbie Hancock had a degree in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
He was an electrical engineer,
Yeah.
and obviously we saw where he went.
Yeah.
So my attitude is let him have a space, and let's see what happens.
It's funny because my grandfather was a civil engineer.
Oh,
And I remember one time I was performing back in Pittsburgh where I started doing stand-up, and I was performing for a group of engineering students at the University of Pittsburgh and at Carnegie Mellon. And one of them came up to me and said, "Are you an engineer?" And I go, "No, I'm not an engineer." And he goes, "I could have sworn you." And I go, "Well, maybe it seeped in from my grandfather." And he sat there and he goes, "'Cause your comedy it reminds me, seems like you think like an engineer." And I go, "Explain." And he goes, "Well, engineers major, to be as simple as humanly possible. An engineer's job is to solve problems. It's to essentially, okay, here is the situation that you are given. Here is the where you want to put it. Here is the budgetary, all these kind of things. What is the best course of action to kind of go from there? And you've heard my comedy. It is very much, here is the problem that I see. Here are my examples of what could be done to solve it, and kind of giving examples of that. And so I've always been very interested in engineering in that respect, because again, when people sit there and kind of try to explain it, and someone just goes, "Oh, the job is you solve problems," at its core of it. And so I always have like a kinship to that as well. And my grandfather was he was actually in the Army Corps of Engineers during World War II.
Oh wow.
And then he was actually in Germany during like the Marshall Plan and everything like that. And then eventually owned a construction company in Milwaukee and did highways, and actually was part of building nuclear missile silos in South Dakota and all this other kind of stuff. So yeah, he was and he actually, I always love when older people always talk about like, oh, I don't get technology. Literally, my grandfather lived to be about 95 years old, and he died maybe about 10, 15 years ago. But when he eventually moved from Milwaukee in with his son in Minneapolis to keep busy, he went to the University of Minnesota and helped teach the graduate students, who a lot of them were from overseas, English, to help them communicate with undergraduates in engineering.
Oh, wow.
And even when he was, he had a bad hip and eventually moving around, he would Skype. So like even into his 90s, it was one of those things to where it was like, someone showed him what email was. It took him 30 seconds and he could do it. Yeah. Because he just looked, again, like an engineer. He goes, oh, okay, it's just step 1, step 2, step 3, boom, boom. I understand it. Let's just move on. And I always laugh at when an older person sits there and goes, I don't understand this technology. I always think about my grandpa. I'm like, well, he picked up email and Skype at 95, so I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah, my entire career, I've been dealing with engineers. Ever since out of college, I used to be in the semiconductor industry, and so I dealt with engineers, electrical engineers for designing chips and motherboards and all that other stuff, on a regular basis. And now I have Brother Dilip over here that I work with.
Well, I want to talk to you about something. I saw this today. We're currently, and when we're recording this, we are currently in the midst of a very stupid war in Iran. And I hope someday we just call it this, the dumbest, maybe one of the dumbest wars in the history.
It's extraordinary.
It's up there. Yeah. But one of the things that's come out, and I read about this, is, over the last 40 years, even though the quote unquote Cold War is over, and there was supposed to be this big military dividend or peace dividend that we're supposed to transmit money from military to, helping with infrastructure or, paying for, people that have healthcare and stuff like that. We've continued to spend into the trillions in our military. Yeah. And even to the point of, they've said over the last couple years, we've outspent our next 8 countries combined yearly.
Our yearly budget for military is like 900 something billion or 1 trillion.
And then Trump wants to go to 1.5 trillion or something stupid. But the thing is, they got it is that, we've been in the stupid war for 3 weeks, and now our danger is we're running out of munitions.
Yeah, well, what happens?
So again, that's why I wanted to talk to you. How the hell does that happen? We spend $1 trillion a year on stuff, and 3 weeks in, we're out of stuff.
The problem is that we spend around $950 billion a year on our defense. Okay, now in comparison, take that. Remember that number, $950 billion. It's about $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay. The next 8 largest armies in the world, if you add up all of their defense budgets, including NATO, doesn't compare to our budget.
Yeah.
Russia is somewhere around $130 billion.
Yeah.
All right, that's the next, quote, superpower.
Yeah.
And then after that, you have Turkey and India. India spends around $90 billion. Okay, now just to give you a point of comparison, $90 billion is roughly California's education budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to give you the
well,
idea.
China's huge.
And China's in there, but China's not anywhere close to $900 billion. Now, the problem we're having with this war, the heart of the problem is that we have Patriot missiles that cost $4 million per missile, and the Iranians are firing these Shahad drones, which are $20,000. and they've got 50,000 of them. So with one little $20,000 drone,
Yep.
they can cause. I mean, it's not an atomic bomb or anything. It doesn't have a lot of firepower to it. But hey, if it blows up a library or it blows up an airport terminal, that causes a lot of fear. So to shoot that one $20,000 drone, we have to spend $4 million to intercept it. And who has more missiles? They do. So this has been a great logistical error somewhere on the general's in the general's accounting. Didn't count how many bullets the enemy has, or didn't do a proper accounting. Because if your enemy has more bullets than you do, I don't care how good of a shotter you are. If they've got more bullets, you're gonna lose.
So basically, they have more bullets, but our bullets are bigger and more
Our
expensive.
bullets are bigger and they're more expensive.
Yeah.
And here's the other part of the problem. Iran has been able to produce thousands and thousands of these Shahad drones in basements and in bunkers, and they've got them all over the place. It takes us, in 1 year, I think we produced maybe, 15 Patriot missiles?
Yeah.
Because they're expensive, and they have
complicated.
all these complicated, Now, the Ukrainians, I got to hand it to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are very intelligent. They have come up with a solution because Russia was using these Shahad drones.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's how they've been doing their attacks. Now, the Ukrainians came up with, I think, absolutely brilliant ideas. So they developed the anti-Shahad drone,
Yeah. Yep.
which is a little like pumpkin rocket. Basically, it looks like a toy. They cost around $2,000 to $3,000, and those little bastards will go up and shoot down the $20,000 drone. And Ukraine has thousands of them.
Yeah. And they're making them. They're actually the leader in the world now for making drones.
So Ukraine signed a deal with Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries to supply them with these drones. So I got to give credit to Ukraine that this is what I'm talking about in military warfare, just like in football and in hockey. It's not the strongest people that win. It's the people who have strategic sense.
Absolutely.
They're the ones who win.
Which ironically, Ukraine was trying to sell those drones to the United States before in the lead up to the war.
But that's the point I was about to make, is the fact that we had what most people described until about a year and a half ago, an ally, someone that we had, that President Biden had assisted. So we have I've read several reports that we have CIA bunkers in Ukraine, and we help them with intelligence and satellite reconnaissance and all this kind of stuff. And the thing about it is that's like, okay, the people who knew this and knew how to defeat it were our friends until about a year and a half ago, until we brought their president in and yelled at him in our freaking in our Oval Office.
Oh, definitely some major foreign policy errors, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the other side of the equation there, in the Ukrainian-Russian invasion, attack, war, whatever you want to call it, or as Putin calls it, a special military operation.
Yeah.
The Russians have lost 1 million soldiers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've lost 1 million soldiers.
Yeah. And they're going into debt.
Now you would think, that if you've lost 1 million soldiers, that maybe it's time to hang up, hang up and let's go home and have vodka. And let's just call it a quit.
Yeah.
But this man's ego is so unbelievable. Okay.
Yep. And what's interesting is the parallels to what Putin's doing in the Ukraine right now is very different nations, but Russia tried this in Afghanistan 40, 50 years ago.
Didn't work.
It didn't work.
It's a total collapse.
They pushed and they pushed trying to beat Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union collapsed because of it.
I saw a military analyst on television talking about, again, the stupid war that we're currently having. And the point that he made, which again I think we're all making, is that think about what the United States and Israel would have to do to achieve a quote unquote a victory. They would have to not only get regime change,
Right.
They would have to institute a pro-American and pro-Israeli government,
Right.
and fight more than likely what would be a huge insurgency
Absolutely.
in a country that's, I believe, almost 2/3 or bigger than Iraq,
Yeah, it's like the size of Texas, is it?
Yeah, it's a gigantic. It's the size of Western Europe.
Well, so Iran is roughly 85 million people.
Yeah.
It's 85 or 90 million people. But you see, you also have to look at the culture, all right? You've got a country here which has a very, very proud history.
It's a 5,000-year-old culture.
It's the Persian Empire, right? And if you know, I used to play. I don't play anymore. I used to play soccer. Okay.
You learn something new about Dilip every day. Continue.
Everything I'm learning about him is new today.
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely. And we got to get into his. We got to get into his documentary.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other stuff we brought.
Well, I'm sorry. I just
no. This is what podcasts are.
This is what we do, baby. This is how it goes.
This
is like, oh my God, we're just meandering. No, this is what podcasts are.
This is the male version of Call Your Daddy.
This is exactly right.
It's Daddy showed up.
So, we're not following a script, right?
No.
So I've played soccer, and I've played against many teams, and I played soccer up until I was 57. Okay, and I played against in Los Angeles. We have a very robust soccer league.
Yeah,
it's international, and these guys take this so seriously. Everybody believes they're in the World Cup.
Yeah,
all right, and they have teams in the league in Los Angeles. They have a Korean team, which is 100% Korean. They have a Persian team, a Greek team. I mean, it really is very international. I've played against the Persians, and they are some tough motherfuckers, okay? And they don't like to lose. So there's a culture there which is extremely, extremely proud, which they should be.
They're very proud people. They're very proud people, yes.
But they're very proud of their culture, and they're never going to tolerate any foreign power coming in there and telling them what to do.
Number one. Number two, they've been planning on this. They've been planning on the United States attacking them ever since Carter, right?
Yeah, it's almost 50 years in the making with this.
So they've expected
and this whole idea that you're going to come in and you're going to impose, I mean, that's why I think that the whole thing in Afghanistan was just a complete miscalculation. You're not going to come into this country which has, 10,000 years of history, 5,000 years of history, way, way beyond. I mean, America's, beautiful country and everything, but it's only 250 years old. It's a relatively young nation.
Yeah.
And you're going to come in there and everybody's going to eat KFC and have Chick-fil-A?
Right. It's not going to happen.
I mean, it might with the new generation, but it's not going to be easy. And you're fighting against a culture here, a religion that has been in existence for 1,400 years.
That's one of the points I remember when I watched Ken Burns's, again, we'll get to your documentaries, Ken Burns's Vietnam.
I love that show.
And the funny thing about it is the first episode was the best entry-level introduction to the history of Vietnam and what it was all about. And I literally was like, this should be mandatory for a history class at a high school level to be shown, because it went from, okay, like you said, an ancient culture. It went to colonial rule in the 1800s. It went to Ho Chi Minh literally going to the Treaty of Versailles, trying to get support for an independent Vietnam. Him actually being a CIA operative in the 1940s in World War II because he was all wanting to help out. And us basically siding with the French instead of siding with him. And it all gets to this point of like, all it would have taken is one diplomat in the 1940s and 50s to know the history of this country to sit there and say, yeah, it'd be a bad idea to get into a land war with these people.
There's no excuse, really, if you look back in history, my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, and I'm a big history buff. I love history.
Yeah.
I read a lot of history. Every single historical conflict that has ever occurred, I firmly believe that there's really no reason to have a war.
Right.
There's always a way to resolve these issues. There's no need. And these wars start up because of misunderstandings, miscalculations, and really it's egos on both sides, sometimes mostly on one side, just trying to, it's like the dude who cuts you off on the freeway.
Yeah.
They just want to show that they're in a dominant position. And what are you going to do? You're going to go cut them off, then they're going to cut you off, and eventually someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to let it go.
Yeah.
Ho Chi Minh, that's a great story. Ho Chi Minh came to the United States. He wanted the United States to be on his side.
Thought they would be on his side.
Eisenhower treated him like a piece of shit and didn't meet him. And so he said, fine, I'm going to go to China, because he wanted the French out. The French had been there for 10 years. And then Kennedy took us to Vietnam, and we all know how that ended. And when you look at the logistics of Vietnam, which the Americans lost 55,000 soldiers, which is terrible, no question, over 10 years. The Vietnamese lost a million soldiers.
Yeah.
And they call that a win. To me, that's a very costly win.
Yeah, it's a
But
very
they
costly win,
but
yeah.
they did eventually achieve. And I will say this today, that Vietnam today is more capitalistic than California.
I was making, but I was making the point of, like, you sit there and you say, oh, they'll never eat Chick-fil-A, they'll never eat KFC.
They are eating
If you
Chick-fil-A.
go to Vietnam, that's why one of the things I made the point of to somebody
they are more capitalistic, and actually they are less of a Chinese satellite than North Korea.
If you took someone from 1955, you took someone from the Eisenhower administration, and you brought them into Vietnam in 2026 and didn't tell them what happened and said, here, you were in Vietnam, they'd be like, man, we must have won. Look, there's Pepsi, there's KFC, they're driving a Chevrolet.
I mean, look at there's a lot of products that are made that come into the United States from Vietnam.
They're talking about it as almost being the replacement for China because of
I
the
can tell you right
thing.
now, I'm in the construction business. A major part of our steel comes from Vietnam.
Yep.
We buy steel from Vietnam, we buy steel from China, we buy steel from South Korea. So what was this whole thing that we wanted to do? What? We were afraid that they were going to be what? They were going to be our enemy?
Right.
You know, sometimes
the domino theory.
The domino theory, exactly. And I mean, you know, as much as I admire the guy, I mean, this was Kennedy's war. He took us there.
Yeah.
He brought us into Vietnam.
Well, the problem was, and you know this, it's, again, politics almost never changes. It was the fact that he was a young senator. He was viewed as being soft on communism. That was, so he couldn't give up, because, again, that's what was viewed as the reason, like Korea was viewed as being a quote unquote a loss, because, again, we didn't, you know, quote unquote blow the North, you know, Koreans out of the water, and we didn't do whatever, and we got to a quote unquote stalemate. And so, you know, the whole point in the 1960s was better dead than red. It was this concept of communism being such the issue.
And sometimes, you know, the best strategy is to just cool it and let time take its course.
Yeah, I think now, though, the issue we have now is that because of how much money is spent on military around the world, you know, we are now in a military-industrial complex era. And so going back to kind of what you're talking about there, Mike, you know, we sell our military assets, we sell our military products to so many different countries. And when you're stockpiling all these bullets and all these missiles and things like that, it costs money to store it, right? And
just-in-time delivery.
And it degrades over time. And so at a certain point, you got to do something with these arms. And so if you notice over the past, ever since the Cold War ended, every few years there's a major war starting up. For going back to what Dilip was saying, kind of no reason. Like, you could actually solve this problem, but the answer is shoot missiles, drop bombs, and shoot bullets. You know, that movie The Lord of War with Nicolas Cage really kind of gets into that. You know, we're always funding these conflicts because we have to be using this product we're making. As you know, we can throw away all the tomatoes that we don't sell in the United States. You can't, you know, but these bullets, they need to be shot. They need to be fired. And so, you know, these wars are created, I think, in my humble opinion now, to feed the military-industrial complex, because now more contracts are going out. They're going to build more missiles. They're going to build more guns, make more guns and all that stuff. And when these two wars, Ukraine and this bullshit in Iran is done, guarantee within 3 to 5 years, we'll be back into something else.
We always need an enemy.
We'll always be an enemy.
You know, always need because if enemies breed, you know, the there's a lot of holes in the Oliver Stone movie JFK, but the one part that, even if it wasn't necessarily true, it was at least, it wasn't factual, but it was true, was the Donald Sutherland scene on the park bench when he was talking to Kevin Costner about basically how the world works. And one of the lines I always loved what he said was the power of the state comes from its ability to create war. That's where the state gets its oomph. And it needs an enemy. If it doesn't have an enemy, then people will start, well, why are we spending all of this money?
Right.
Why are we building these? Why do we need all these new weapons if we don't have enemies? If we can just, like you said, solve it through talking, through cooperation. There was someone had this quote that says, "We've never invaded a country that had a McDonald's in it." And that's it. It is this concept of, if you want world peace, again, it's McDonald's. It's trade. It's understanding. It's figuring out we're both human beings on a little blue ball.
And then, the human nature to a certain extent is warlike, right? We always, as humans, other people, right? You're not the same as me. I'm not the same as you. So that means that this person is bad. And this,
I kind of have one of the themes of my comedy is this concept of human beings are fighting this battle between the modern mind and the caveman brain, in that it's in our nature to fear the other, because for most of human history we would be in this village and the only people we knew were the people that we've grown up with, and now over the hill comes somebody.
Dilip Khatri.
But it is this concept of, in the back of our mind, we're like, okay, is that someone bringing us good news, or is that a group of people willing to do us harm?
Right.
And that is why, and that's also one of the things, I read somewhere where someone talked about, quote unquote, the fear of success. What the fear of success really is fear of being shunned from the village, being shunned from the group. Because when you're successful, then the people that you grew up with, the people that you are all of a sudden different. You are all of a sudden living a different life. And that can be scary, because in the back of our mind, we're like, oh, the village is what protects me. The village is what makes it, if I ever get in trouble, will find me and help me. Mm-hmm. And once you go out on your own, even if it is viewed as being positive because you're being successful, it can be really scary.
Well, now we have oligarchs and billionaires that will bomb the village.
Thank God.
Absolutely.
Thank God we got the oligarchs and the billionaires to do that.
Here's the segue from hell. We have the illustrious Mr. Dilip Khatri here.
By the way, Segue from Hell is sponsored by
And Dilip he's become one of my best friends in work and just in life. He's a wonderful human being. I will give first of all, besides being a very successful structural engineer, he has had 2 separate documentaries that have been award winners over the past year. Yes,
Thank you.
A lot of awards.
Thank you very much.
I am Khatri. How many awards did that win in total?
My Name is Khatri.
My Name is Khatri, sorry.
My Name is Khatri is a documentary film about the story of my father and mother and their migration to America, which starts from the 1930s in British India. It's roughly a 75-minute documentary, and it tells the history of British India, the revolution, the independence, and their migration from India to Africa, and then the civil war in Africa, and then my father coming here basically destitute with no money, and arrives in New York City in 1968 with $200 and stays at a hostel in Harlem. And that's how he begins his life in America.
Wow.
So that film, we were talking earlier before we started the interview, how long it takes to make a documentary.
Yeah.
That film has taken me approximately 12 years to make, because I interviewed my mother and my dad before they passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hung on to the footage. And, when you're running a business and working,
mm-hmm.
it's not something that I can just turn off and go, okay, I'm going to go make a film.
Yeah.
I got to pay the bills, and I got payroll and all these other important things that need to get done. Plus, I enjoy my work, so that is very important.
Yeah.
So finally, we finished it, and we finished it about 7 months ago, and we released it. And it's won a few awards. Yeah, we've won about, I think, 12 awards, and it's doing pretty good. I tried to see if I could get it, some distribution. It hasn't caught anybody's attention yet, but it's on my website, KhatriProductions.com.
You spell that for the people?
KHATRI Productions.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up there. You can watch it. You can watch it online. And I may just end up releasing it on YouTube at some point. I'm not trying to make any money off of it. This is a passion project that I wanted to make, and I got it. I made it. I made the film.
So in the process of making the movie, I imagine that your father told you that story on several occasions.
Oh, his whole lifetime.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So in interviewing him and finally going through it, interviewing your mother, were there any revelations about the story that came across? Like, oh, you never mentioned that, or you didn't mention that, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The film has actually changed me as a person in a very positive way, because I interviewed my mother over a period of 3 days, almost 17 hours of interviews. Plus, I wanted to have a record of her because I knew before she passed away, I wanted to have that on film.
It's quite beautiful. Yeah.
So listening to her, we started from when she was born all the way through her entire lifetime. She passed away at 88. And I learned so much about her that I had no idea, no idea how much this lady suffered and what she went through. And then listening to my father has rejuvenated and re-energized me. I'm 61 now. I just turned 61, and I consider myself to be fairly well maintained, and I am just, honestly speaking, I honestly feel like I'm 33 or something like that, and I don't think I act like I'm 61. I know people that are in my age bracket, and I just feel really happy and energized that I can see myself working for another 40 years to make more films and to continue doing what I'm doing. And I go back to my dad and my mom, who came to this country. My father arrived in this country. He was roughly 38 when he arrived, approximately. And he came to this country, he had $200 in his pocket, right? And he had 2 checks from 2 Canadian families that had given him $1,500 in checks that he gave them cash in Nigeria because they had to escape the Civil War. They had to catch a flight, and they couldn't cash the checks. So they gave my dad these 2 checks, and my dad gave him the cash. And, it's a big risk that you come, and what if there's no money in the account? The checks could bounce. But my dad had faith that, he knew them. So he gave them the cash. They got the flight and got out of Nigeria, went back to Canada. My dad arrived in Harlem, stayed at a hostel for $3. I think it was $3 a week.
Wow.
Okay, with a shared bathroom. You get the picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he went to cash the checks, and the checks cleared.
Wow.
And that was how he started his life. And what was the first purchase that he made? He spent $99 and bought a 3-month pass on Greyhound and toured the entire country 5 times, coast to coast.
Wow.
Sleeping in the bus at nighttime and touring in the daytime to save, because he didn't, he had a couple $1,000, but, and of course, 1968. But still, it's only a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
That story alone has given me so much incentive that if a man can come to this country, and it still happens even today.
Absolutely.
Opportunity is there. And so for this notion alone, that I'm very happy that America welcomes everybody. And which was the state that he chose to, it's all in the film when you get a chance to watch it. Which state did he choose to start his life out? He chose California, because California gave him a student teaching assistantship at Cal State Fresno, gave him a stipend, and welcomed him into the country.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So that was the beginning of his life, and that's why my mother always told me that if for whatever reason, if my sister and I were not to agree for whatever reason on the retirement, or excuse me, upon their passing, if we were to ever have, she wrote it into her trust, into her will, that if the kids fight over the assets, the money goes to Cal State Fresno.
That's hilarious.
So my sister and I, we don't have any argument or anything. We didn't have any argument at all. But she told us, she says, if you guys are going to fight, she put it, then I'm giving the assets to Cal State.
So, I mean, and this is as relevant today as it ever is that I think If someone sits there and says, what's the magic formula for the success of this country and for the success of a place like California, it is the fact of bringing in the energy of people like your father.
Absolutely.
Bringing people in with that, because, and I fear that people today are afraid of, quote unquote, the other, afraid that someone's coming in to take something from them, when reality, your father gave more to this country than ever was given to him.
When you think about it, his father came to this country and he taught at Cal State. So that's how many years did he do that for?
So he got his master's degree from Cal State Fresno, and then he was a high school teacher, and both of my parents were high school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting where they ended up in their career. It's very, very interesting. My father ended up teaching at one of the top high schools in the United States, La Cañada High School, one of the most affluent areas, on the same par with Beverly Hills and San Marino.
I live in Glendale, so it's right over the hill.
Everybody
my
here
father
knows,
taught there at La Cañada High School for 35 years, and my mother, just to show you the shift in the economic disparity, my mother taught at one of the toughest high schools in South Central at 130th Street in South Central at Bethune Middle School. And they both would come home in the evening to share their stories. My mother teaching in a predominantly black and Latino school, middle school, high school, and my father teaching at a predominantly white and upper crust, very, very affluent. And would you care to guess which of the two schools had more disciplinary issues with students?
La Cañada.
La Cañada had more problems.
That's crazy.
Because,
this is not surprising.
Because my mother told us a story. She said that in her school, mother would show up with her kid and would tell my mom and give her the phone number and said, if my boy does anything, you let me know.
Yep.
And
that's a very black family thing,
And the kids always used to tell my mom, please don't call my mama.
Yep.
Because they will pull the belt out and do what you know has to be done.
Right there in front of the class.
Versus at La Cañada High School, the parents defended their kids and went to the dean, went to the superintendent, and would always side with the parents. And my father could never ever. He had to be afraid of these kids.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is why, I mean, and I have multiple family members who are high school teachers right now. And I was a high school football coach back in Pennsylvania for 6 years. And I was at what would be deemed in Pittsburgh one of an affluent high school. And the thing is, like you said, parents at those schools can't accept that, no way, not my little Johnny. My little Johnny's the most brilliant human being that's ever walked the face of the earth. And if he got an F, it's because you, the teacher, did something wrong. And if my little Johnny isn't the star quarterback, it's because the coach did something wrong. There's no chance that my little Johnny did anything wrong, which is why I remember, when we were talking about teachers' unions. And I remember talking to one of the teachers at this high school that I taught to in Pittsburgh. And he goes, do you realize it would be nearly impossible to teach at this high school if we didn't have a strong union? Because we would try to give a kid a grade. If the wrong kid goes up to his affluent dad and threatens a lawsuit to the school, because, if we didn't have a strong union, half of us, none of us would have the guts to give any kid below a C.
It's interesting because in the African American community, it is since King and before. Well, first of all, it was black slaves and black nannies that raised white children, in the 16, 17, 1800s. And it is widely talked about, especially in the older generation of African Americans, that white families don't raise their children right, that they spoil them. And going back to what Dilip was just saying, you do not give your teachers and your elders a hard time if you're African American. That is an absolute no.
I wouldn't say it's. Now I would say this. Okay, it's the affluent, waspy,
100%. I mean,
white people.
100%.
You know,
100%. But
my Irish Catholic mom would kick the shit out of me.
That's what I'm talking about, because we're talking about La Cañada and the school that you're going through. So that's what we're talking about for sure. You know, and so I just find, you know, and even today now you have, you know, we were talking about in one of the previous podcasts, you know, about how there's a cognitive decline amongst students because, you know, they're being raised on tablets and you know, their cell phones and, you know, over the internet, instead of, you know, actually be given books and papers and having the teachers, you know, holding them more accountable for the work that they're doing than they used to back in the day.
Now, I have never been a conspiracy theory guy until the last couple years, when every conspiracy theory has turned out to be true.
Right.
Like, if you would have told me 4 or 5 years ago, you're like, you know that, you know, basically we're run by billionaire pedophiles, I'd been like, no.
Yeah.
What are
It's
you
crazy,
talking
isn't it?
about? Now the Epstein files come out, and you're like, oh my God, we're a country run by billionaire pedophiles.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that. But the one thing that I'm starting to kind of see, and I'm trying to make a comedy bit out of this, and it's turning out getting some responses. Has anyone else noticed that our culture has, like, our music, our movies, our entertainment is, like, gotten softer?
What do you
Like,
mean?
well, like, you talk about, like, hip hop back in the 80s and 90s. It was more,
Well, it's more
Public Enemy.
It's commercialized.
It was
now.
it was
Right,
it was
yeah.
it was KRS-One. It was Fight the Power.
Right.
You know, rock music was predominant. It was heavy. It was, you know, they're talking about the fact that the music industry doesn't want rock stars anymore because they're tough to control.
Well,
Because you know,
everything's become commercialized now, and
Well,
so
but
with music in particular, it's all about algorithms, and so if you notice, most rappers have that same cadence and sound. It's like if you close your eyes, you know, I dare you to hear the difference between, you know, at least a dozen songs that you're hearing on the radio today. And same thing with country, same thing with rock and roll, same thing, you know. You
but
have
even
these,
in movies, like,
Yeah,
we grew up
absolutely.
with.
Oh,
Think about what the movie Rocky.
it's all formulaic now.
Was to teach you. It's like, you know what? Yeah, things aren't going well right now, but if you get a shot, you work your ass off. Because the funny thing, I've always thought, no one ever thinks through Rocky in a sense of, he didn't have to train that hard. He was going up against the heavyweight champion of the world. He was going up against someone that absolutely athletically was over. All he had to do was show up and gets 2 punches to the face. He falls down. He gets his money. Instead, he puts himself through absolute hell in training to give himself the best chance so that he can live with himself. And the thing is, think about the message that gives you in a sense of, hey, even if the odds are completely stacked against you, put your best foot forward, work your ass off, and you might at least give yourself a shot. Now, what do we have? We got superhero movies, which teach you what? You're either born great or you're going to die great.
Well, the difference, superhero movies, because I'm a big Marvel fan,
And I'm not.
Then we're gonna jump into the other Dilip documentaries, because I definitely wanted to help just those. The thing about superhero movies is those are archetypically driven, and so just like Rocky is the hero, which is an archetype.
Yeah.
Superhero movies are about these different archetypes playing out with superpowers, of course, but, you know, to a certain degree. They are an extension of what's been going on for a millennia. It's our imagination, whether it's demons and dragons and God and the devil and, you know, the Satar and Poseidon. You know, we've always had these mythical beings within human storytelling. And so Marvel and DC and the Boys and things like that, those are just extensions of that myth, that those archetypical mythologies. That do actually teach you at their core the struggle of good and bad, right? That at their core, it's a struggle of good and evil. But it's, you know, but the problem that's happened with modern media in particular is that it's all become it's become so spoon-fed and so formulaic that, you know, again, if you look at any movie, Spider-Man, you know, whatever, it's you have these beats. When you go to script writing class, right? It's literally a formula of how to write a good movie.
Yeah.
And
or just write a movie.
Or write a movie, right? And so they don't take gambles on original content anymore. Like that's why Sinners blew up so much, because Sinners was such an original air quote such an original concept that they took a chance on, and people bought it because it was actually original.
But think about another. Okay, so I like the movies I grew up with a guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger that taught you that if you work hard, you can achieve something, as opposed to a guy gets magical powers because a bug bit him in the ass.
Sure, well, you're different. They're two different genres of movies, though, right? So you can't, they're just two different genres of movie. I mean, that's like rom-com versus slapstick, right?
Well, rom-coms are another one that I have a problem with.
So my opinion on this is that studios. Okay, so let's look at Hollywood as an industry, right? So Hollywood is an industry. We learned this in our film school training, in the business end of it, that is. So the gross revenue of Hollywood, ticket sales worldwide, is around $30 billion a year, right? Out of that $30 billion, what percentage are domestic ticket sales? Care to guess?
About a third of it.
10 billion, right on target. So that means 20 billion are coming from overseas, right? Out of that $30 billion, what percentage of the total ticket sales, the total revenue that Hollywood makes, the $30 billion, what percentage are concentrated within the top 5 studios?
That I don't know.
No clue.
Roughly 99.5%. Okay.
The most of, not all. Now 4, since
whatever the 4 top. So you're talking Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers.
Well, now Paramount and Warner Brothers are going to be the same thing.
They're going to be together.
NBC Universal and Netflix now.
Right.
Basically. Go ahead, yeah.
What's the total gross revenue of online revenue for online film market? So 30 billion is movies, ticket, theater, cinema. Mm-hmm. What's the revenue line for online the online revenue? Anybody?
Have no idea.
110 billion.
Wow.
Okay. So what does that say? Where am I headed with this? Hollywood's a business, right? And when you run a business, if Ford is making the F-150, which is the number 1 selling vehicle for the last 10 years or 15 years, why should they take, and then they also make the Ford Mustang, and they make, all these sports cars, whatever, and Ferrari makes Ferrari, but Ferrari can never compete with Ford F-150 in terms of revenue. Okay, so in a business now, sure, you would love to be the president of Ferrari, I'm sure. It's very prestigious,
right?
But you're not making as much money as Ford F-150. So Hollywood's the same way. Hollywood says, where are our ticket sales? And their audience is age 6 to 30, right? And what you're talking about, which is meaningful storytelling. Now, I go back in films, as far as my history, my storyline with films goes much, much further back than 1978. I'm going back to Cary Grant and Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, those are my proteges, right? Mm-hmm. Knute Rockne from the 1940s, real storytelling. The problem we have is that those films, if you made those films today, they don't make any money. They're not going to compete because your ticket sales. When was the last time you went to a theater? Okay.
Maybe maximum go once or twice a year.
Okay.
I go
so
like 4 times a year.
4 times a year.
About 4 times a year, yeah.
Right. But 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds, the parents want them out of the house. Just go see a damn movie. And, and what's next to the movie theater when you go down to the mall? Buster's and all these other places. So it's an event, right? So, and cinema right now is fighting just to keep that 10 billion. It dropped down to 6 billion during COVID. And it still hasn't recovered. It's somewhere around 8 billion the last time I checked the numbers.
But here's, to me, where Hollywood as a business lost its way. Because what actually has rebounded quicker and actually even surpassed pre-COVID numbers, and that's live sports.
Sure.
And the reason why, in my opinion, is because what live sports understood is the star system, and understood that, why are the Dodgers selling out? They have the star. They have Ohtani. Why is it that the NFL has done well? English Premier League has done well. All this kind of, it's the star system. It's compelling drama. It's something to whereas now Hollywood just lost what made it great, which was you would want to go. There was a reason to go every Saturday. There was a reason to go multiple times.
But you have to look. I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. But now put yourself in a position. I'm going to make you the executive. You're a senior executive. You're a green lighter or a red lighter at NBC Universal.
Yep.
And you get presented with a dozen scripts, right? And you're making the big bucks. It only takes one bad green light for a film to lose money, and what's going to happen to your career?
I understand that.
So here's my question: why would an executive at NBC Universal risk his all expense paid American Express Gold card, Platinum card, to take a chance on a film that has no track record when he can go with Superman and Pussycat Stars or whatever the hell it is? I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of that stuff, by the way.
Yeah, no, so I get it. Yeah,
but why he's going to go with the characters that already have a track record, and he doesn't care about story and
right. And real quickly, an element that needs to be discussed in this is especially when you talk about the difference between sports and movies, is TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Ohtani is always going to be Ohtani, no matter what medium he's on. So whether somebody consumes a 30-second clip or somebody looks at the entire game, it's always going to be Ohtani, right? But when you have these movies, sure, it's Brad Pitt, but if the movie doesn't if the movie doesn't hit all those buttons, no one's looking at you. And the studios have all these media rights. They don't want their clips out there unless they're getting paid off of them. And so the ability for videos to go viral is very different for a movie than it is for sports. In addition, our attention span is so much shorter now, and because we get so much content from Mr. Beast to Dilip Khatri to with his documentaries to
you're the problem.
Nature nature shows and all these different cooking shows and all this other stuff that's going on. It's definitely more difficult.
There's a lot more choices.
Yeah,
but again, those choices still stop someone from spending $100 to go to Dodger Stadium to watch Ohtani. And you talk about a 9-inning game is still a 2.5-hour, 3-hour adventure.
Oh shit! It's a 7-hour event.
Yeah.
But sports is a very
sports is a different category.
It's just a different. It's just a thing.
I don't think it's as different as people think it is.
No, but
it's an experience.
Here's the big difference. Sporting events, which is baseball, football, soccer, all of them, basketball, same thing. There's no script. You don't know how the movie's going to end. That's the edge.
But that gets me to the point of having a Sinners or a compelling drama to where you sit there and you don't have the beats.
Yes.
You have a situation of like, okay, I'm going to experience something like, again, like you were talking about that executive. Someone had to green light Star Wars and turn it into a $3-4 billion entity when someone got handed a 20-something-year-old director who had made one movie, wants to do a space adventure with a space pirate and forces and a talking bear walking around. And some executive had to sit there and say, screw it.
He was turned off. He was turned down by every studio.
And those other studios had to watch as another guy greenlit it, and that movie became the biggest thing in the history of the world.
But the point being is that, greenlighting a movie and having it made, especially now, costs, anywhere from like if a movie costs $20 million to make, it costs another $20 million to market. So you're into this movie by about $40 million. And then you have to get into the theaters. And by the way, the movie theaters themselves, the AMCs, and the Regals of the world, they take they take at least like 50-50 of that revenue. So even though a movie does $80 million, the studio's actually only going to get $40 million back, and already they spent $40 million to actually put the film out. So
it's very high risk.
It's very high risk.
It's very, very high risk, and nobody wants to take a chance on an unknown anybody.
So now
So then you're in the circle of
You're in
bullshit.
the circle.
Right.
Well,
so
you end up in you end up with that. That's why
It's a circle of death.
Right.
It's like nothing's interesting, so I don't greenlight anything interesting. So
except,
no one goes.
You know what's interesting?
This show.
Besides this show, that documentary that you made about the salsa dancer.
Oh yeah, that is called Liz Lira, La Reina de Bolivia, and that's the story, again, an immigrant story of a young girl whose parents come to America with nothing, and she arrives here from Bolivia, and she becomes an international famous Latin ballroom dancer. And she's a real person. She has a studio not too far away from here, over on the west side in West LA, and she teaches classes, Liz Lira, and you can again find her film on our website, KhatriProductions.com. And that film is a great story. That's a great
beautiful story.
You know,
What did you learn most about, and not just about salsa dancing, but about the culture that you witnessed? Because you're a study of history and everything like that. Yeah.
Well, so salsa dancing. First of all, I love jazz. I'm originally, a Miles Davis fan, and I mean, jazz has always been top of my list. And
you're also a gangster rapper, right?
No,
That's where the stocking cap came.
Okay, yeah, okay.
This is me trying to blend in with your homies.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you, Dylan.
I'm just trying. I have a habit when I travel to try to fit in culturally where I go.
Right, absolutely.
So since we're not in Texas, I took off the cowboy hat.
Yeah, there you go. Appreciate you.
So I'm just trying to fit in with, where we are.
Yeah.
But no, I love Latin music. I love the culture. I've been to 45 countries, and I've been to much of Latin America. And I love Brazilian bossa nova. I love Latin salsa.
Nice.
So the one thing that, again, with Liz Lira and your documentaries one theme seems to be the immigrant experience.
For sure.
What would you say to that person right now? Because there seems to be a large group of Americans, I think it's a minority, but they're loud, that talk about, that immigrants are a negative. That you have the president of the United States talking about that people coming to this country are quote unquote poisoning the blood, all of these horrible
white
things.
Nationalists.
Yeah, white nationalists. But what do you say to? I don't think you say anything to a white nationalist, but to the person who sits there
even to them,
and fears the influx of people, the quote unquote the other. What do you say to them other than just like, hey, this is America? Because it just seems like you have a unique perspective. What would you say to these people?
Well, so first of all, there are good people and bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that everybody that comes here comes with all good. There are good people and bad people that come to this country, but there's a positive effect when you bring in fresh ideas, and it doesn't take a lot of examination to see the productivity of many of these immigrants who come here. A lot of the startups in Silicon Valley have been started by immigrants who have come here. I mean, I know you don't like him, but Elon Musk, is an immigrant and has created, a whole empire there with Tesla and with all these innovations and everything.
He's a brilliant man. He's just a horrible human being.
The politics, if you set aside the politics part of it,
absolutely,
his economic contribution is pretty significant.
Of course.
And
same thing with Steve Jobs.
And then also, one of the lesser-known contributions are many of America's tallest high-rise buildings have been designed by structural engineers who are all immigrants, which they don't get much credit for. They're not known. That's another film that I want to make at some point. But all you got to do is peel back a little bit of the skin of the onion, and you'll see that there are contributions there. And of course, they came here, and we hope that people come here with good intentions.
Of course.
We always do. But there are going to be some bad people. There's going to be bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
And they'll eventually get caught. They'll eventually get filtered out through your, justice system. But I think to turn off the valve completely and to say no, none,
Well,
You just have to look at a few other countries who have done that.
Yep.
And where are they
I
headed?
was just about to go there. Yeah.
You can look at Japan.
Yep.
You can look at Russia.
Yep.
You can look at cultures which are very monotheistic, very, very single race cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they do to themselves? Now, Japan right now, which is a technologically brilliant society, only 120 million people on an island which basically is smaller than California, has managed to be the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world and has produced so many innovations. Japan is right now in the middle of a self-destruction phase because they have had in the past a very strict racial rule of Japanese marrying only Japanese.
Yep.
And not welcoming any other race into their culture.
South Korea's having issues now too.
And this has led to their self-destruction. South Korea, same thing.
Yep.
Russia, which used to be 260 million people, is now down to 140 million people. And, of course, World War II didn't help. 26 million people were killed. The Russians were killed.
And the Ukraine war's not helping.
And the Ukraine war's not helping. But, you know, I don't know any Indians from my relatives in India. Nobody's standing in line at the Russian embassy to get in, okay?
Right.
Nobody's climbing the Tibetan wall to get into China, okay?
Right.
There ain't no line. There's no line down at the Chinese embassy,
Right.
okay? There's a line at the U.S. embassy, and they're getting told no. So what are they doing? They're going to Australia and they're going to Europe, okay?
And I just want to jump in there real quickly. You know, there's this, I don't know I can't remember what the exact statistic is, but to our billions and trillions of fans that are watching this, you can Google it. You know, the percentage of immigrants that come to America and cause crime is very low, you know, comparatively speaking.
They commit less crime than native-born Americans,
Absolutely.
statistically, yes.
And, you know, when you listen to Dilip's story about his parents coming to the United States, very similar to my mother, you figure his father and his mother taught how many thousands of students to be better people, right? So the contribution that that his parents gave to this country to be more enriched and intelligent and productive is, you know, because especially with immigrant, you know, Indian and Jamaican parents are very similar in a lot of ways, and just being, you know, teaching, instilling in letting these kids see that those cultural values and the work ethic and the patience and so much more that they gave to
everything
to the
that
kids
people
in the country.
claim America is. These people are.
They absolutely are.
And the thing this is the example.
And they raised Dilip. Can you imagine how much of a problem that was?
Yeah, that was huge. I can imagine the saintly people they were. One of the things that got me once, and I remember again reading this. It's amazing what happens when you read. This gentleman was talking about the influence of immigrants. Again, bring up sports. We go to a Dodger game, okay? If you take someone from
By the way.
someone from 1926, you take him to a Dodger game, they would understand the game of baseball. But you'd sit there and be like, hey, would you like something to eat? Here's nachos. And they'd be like, what is this? Now we sit there and go like, we don't feel that this is quote unquote ethnic food. We're eating nachos at a ball game. This is was this as American as anything. Well, no. How about this? Pizza. What are you talking about? What is this? Is ethnic food? Where's, you know, whatever. And that's, to me, I always find that to be kind of like, yeah, everything that is viewed as being new and weird and what's going on will be viewed as American as, you know, a hot dog and a beer 50, 100 years from now.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's what America is, and that's how it grows, and that's how it changes, and that's how it continues to flourish, because the only cultures that don't change, you know, are the ones that are already dead. Those are stagnant. You could study them. Everything else morphs and changes and grows. And that's where I believe, again, a huge part of that is immigrants, because I think that right now we're at a horrible place right now as a country in our mindset. My only thing that I'm starting to see, and you're starting to see it in the ballot box, you're starting to see it at the polls, more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact of just the bullshit they've been fed over the last couple of years.
Dilip, let me ask you this: where do you see First of all, just a real quick history. So you were born in India but raised in Nigeria.
I was born in Africa, in Nigeria.
You're born in Africa, Nigeria.
I am an original African Nigerian.
He's a brother.
Igbo tribesman.
Bring it in here, baby.
He's an African American.
I'm an African American.
You black motherfucker.
Goes Elon Musk. Elon Musk is an African American.
He's an African too.
I like to tell my African American brothers and sisters that I'm blacker than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't mess with me because we eat human flesh.
What's that?
Hey, remember that thing about new people coming here? Yeah, never mind. Never mind.
Last king of Scotland.
Get him out of here.
The last king of Scotland.
The Africans are the original cannibals.
Yeah, yeah. The last king of Scotland. You ever remember that scene with Forrest Whitaker? And human flesh.
It's a funny little joke, but I'll share it with you. So in my family, I have one sister. My sister was born in California, and my father always used to make fun of me in particular when we were growing up, and he would say, "She's an American. You are a fucking African." Yes, and that has always stuck with me for some reason because we would be growing up, and it's very interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting. I didn't believe this when I was younger, but now I believe it. That when you're in the womb, the environment does affect you.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%.
I have noticed that with my sister, who was born in Blythe, California, when we were growing up as kids, my sister loved the Beatles. She loved what I call white music. Mm-hmm. On my side of the house,
or the white people pretending the black music,
or whatever,
right.
Whatever. But she loved Styx.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stand this music. So on my side of the house, it was, disco, funky time,
right.
Soul Train, James Brown.
Right.
And she didn't like that music. I was like, how did this happen? Like, we're both genetically from the same family. But there is something to be said.
100%.
Because I was born in Nigeria, and I was raised, my nanny was a black Nigerian lady who used to take me to, according to my mom, took me and they would play the drum and I would be dancing.
Yeah.
So there's
an adorable little Dilip.
But another example of that, my little nephew who now lives back in Pennsylvania was actually born out here in California and lived his first 2 years out here, but was not cognizant when you're 2 years old.
Now he's a white supremacist.
Well, now he's no, he is not.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. To the
very hard to be a white supremacist at 6, but yeah.
To the assassins out there's a big family. I don't want to get on the wrong side of this guy.
Big figuratively and numbers wise. He came out to visit his Uncle Mike with my brother John and everything like that, and we took him to the beach. Mm-hmm. And when he had gone on vacation to North Carolina, he didn't want to go in the ocean. But as soon as he came out to California, he sat there and he just started to run into the ocean, and he had no problem with it. And my brother was kind of shocked. He goes, "You didn't want to go in the ocean when we were in North Carolina on vacation. What made you want to come out here?" He goes, "No, I like this. I like this better." He's 6. He's I like this better. And I'm almost thinking oh, maybe because somehow, some way, you were born here. Yeah. You were from here. You maybe were at the beach when you were in the womb or something like that.
It has been proven. It is scientific fact that the stresses that the mother is going through and the environment that the baby is gestating in it affects the
before the kid's even born.
Before the kid's even born, yeah.
There's already a DNA that's been written.
Yeah,
but I'm very proud. Now, I'm very proud of my cultural heritage. I'm very proud to say that I was born in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
I have full. I mean,
how old were you when you moved to the United States?
I was 3.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the more I study my past, the more I'm proud of it. So it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that when I was growing up. There was a time in my life when I wanted to change my name, and I was going to change it to Philip Steinberg.
Wow.
Because I said, I'm going to get much farther in my career with the name of Philip Steinberg. But I said, when I show up for the meeting, they're going to say, "Where's Steinberg? Where's Mr. Steinberg?" So no, I just said, no, stick with Dilip. And when I start talking to people on the phone with clients and whatever, they forget who they're talking to. And then when I show up, they're like, "Oh, okay, well, that's Dilip."
Right. Yeah.
Because I've had people tell me, "You sound like Chad from Malibu, you know. You just sound like some dude from the beach."
I remember.
And I tend to irritate a lot of the folks from New York because the folks from the East Coast are very high pressure.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you're able to tell, I'm very laid back.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to get done. We're going to get it finished. I'm very California.
Yeah.
And the folks from the East Coast, you know, they're just walking around with very high blood pressure, you know. But, yeah.
So I wanted to get into this because, you know, we have so much going on in the world, and I always value the conversations me and you have. How do you see this? What are your predictions for the Trump presidency and this Iran war? What do you see happening with that over the next 2 years?
What's going to happen is we're going to end it. There's not going to be a regime change. I don't see that.
No,
happening.
not at all. Not at all.
And what's going to happen is Trump's going to declare it a victory, for sure, because he doesn't know how to do anything else.
Do you think that?
He's never learned how to say that we lost.
Yeah. Do you think the Hormuz Strait will be open, or do you think they're going to finish this with? Do you think he's going to walk away with Iran having a certain control over Hormuz, or are they going to get to the JPOC or JOPC, whatever it was that Obama
so
did?
Iran is going to continue to exist. I don't see the Ayatollah Grand Supreme Leader going anywhere at this point. Even if they kill him, there'll be another Supreme Leader.
Right.
That'll be
there's
appointed.
news reports today that he is very much injured.
I'm sure
he's been affected by.
I mean, when you got the CIA and you got a $900 billion army coming after you, you know, it's really hard to hide. Okay, but you know, you see, you can keep murdering leaders. You can't kill a spirit,
right?
You know, and they do have a spirit. You've got to give them. You got to give them this credit. You may not agree with their philosophy, but they have a culture. They have a people, and they've been around for 1,400 years. Okay, but there are ancient hatreds in that part of the world between Iran and Saudi Arabia that go back far before America. So to answer your question, my prediction is that, I mean, Trump will declare victory. I think there's going to be a very sharp political left turn, okay, metaphorically speaking and realistically speaking. There's going to be a big left turn coming up at this midterm. And I really don't know I don't know who's going to be the next president, but there's going to be, it's going to be very interesting, you know, in the next 2 years to see what follows the Trump administration and what's going to pick up from where we are today.
Here's my theory about, I don't believe people win the presidency. I think the people, basically what they're feeling, they vote for that person.
Sure.
Like, for instance, again, to go through the last 40 some odd years, I don't think that necessarily Reagan won. It was just, he was the person that embodied when people felt that they needed somebody to represent the past, someone to represent what they felt was a more positive, quote unquote, America. And then in 1992, when the economy was dipping and it seemed like the government wasn't helping, then Bill Clinton was there as a kind of a breath of fresh air. And then in 2000, after 8 years of someone that people viewed was being slick and being too, you know, photogenic, they voted for someone that they felt was a little bit, dare I say, simpler. And that was George W. Bush. And then in 2008, when that simple person fucked up the economy, they voted for an African-American because they're like, we're really fucked here. We need a complete change.
You have to remember, too, like Dick Cheney was there. And
but I mean, like, again, it's just this, the concept of being of like, and then when America had 8 years, and then it got to a point to where someone wrote something, and I thought it was very interesting. The guy said, basically, outside of the coasts, the average American, if everything is okay, is center right, and they vote for a Republican if everything they seem is okay. Because the vast majority of Americans in the middle of the country like the country, like the police, like the military. And so when the propagandists in the Fox News and the Newsmaxes of the world say, okay, they hate America, they hate the police, they hate the military, they basically respond negatively. But when things get hairy and things get fucked up, then they look towards government, and that's when they vote for a Democrat. So in 2 years, if things are more fucked up than they are right now, and gas prices go up and everything like that, that's when the middle of the country sits there and says, oh shit, we need some help. And then what typically happens is a Democrat comes in, fixes the economy, everything starts to run again, and then they go, oh, everything's fine again. This guy's going to cut my taxes.
No, I'm going to make a prediction. First of all, I forget which political analyst I saw who said this, but he had said, Chris Matthews, formerly of MSNBC, famously said that if you look at the characters of the president, every president is the opposite of the one that is an opposite to the one that they came before. You had, except for, even Reagan and Herbert Walker Bush, very different people, right? And then you had Carter, very different. Then you had, going back to what you're saying, then, it just goes on from there. I'm going to make a prediction. If James Talrico, the House, wins that Senate seat in Texas, he's the white Obama. I guarantee you he runs for president, and I bet you $1 billion he wins.
He would definitely be the polar opposite of Donald Trump.
Number one, he's the polar opposite of Donald Trump. Number two, he was just speaking like this past week at a black church. This man knows how to talk God to this country like no one has in the history of this nation.
You know why? He's actually read the book.
He's a seminary. He's a seminary.
There's a lot of Christians that haven't read the book.
and when it comes to the demonization of liberalism, small L, and small D democracy, he's unfuckwittable. He's not somebody who's going to. He's not afraid. Him and Buttigieg have something similar, that he's not afraid to get on Fox News and actually debate these people. And you can't. That's why you see these religious zealot Christian evangelicals trying to go after him and saying he should die and all these other things, because he's literally a child of God. He literally lives the Bible. Like, he's not these snake oil salesmen that have these mega churches that are grifting for millions of dollars. This is a guy who wants to go out and help every baby and helps every child. And if he beats Cornyn, he is going to have such a strong national profile, and he can go to Montana, he can go to Alabama, he can go to Downton, he could go to Ebenezer Baptist Church, and he can talk God. And I do not see a politician that could beat that. That's my personal opinion. Dilip, what do you think?
I'm not familiar with him. You got me there.
Yeah, I would get familiar with him. He's a unique.
He's white Obama.
Oh, okay.
He's white Obama. He's a damn good, nice guy. He's an he's able to communicate very well, like Buttigieg, and he's a seminary. He's literally a seminary, and so there is no religious ring. You can't out religious this guy,
and he is legitimately, because here's the thing about Donald Trump. No matter, and the MAGA people are finding this out right now. First and foremost, he is throwing out every woman in his cabinet because every woman who gets involved with this scumbag eventually learns that you can't trust the bastard.
We talked about this last week. The man has no friends. He has not one person in his life, including his family members, that he has not fucked over.
Of course.
It's stunning to me that
he is a scumbag.
It is stunning to me. What I love, what I love right now is you have the Rogans and you have all these different, the Tucker Carlson with his, my conscience is going to be marred for You know, first of all, Tucker, you have no conscience. Then second of all, you're the emails. You act like the emails that came out in that deposition against the voting company didn't show that you literally hated the man. But now, because it's expedient to you, all of these people are pretending like it's like, how did you not know that this was not a filthy, backstabbing, horrible human being?
It's not that they didn't know. Again, these people, they're the cockroaches of the media world. They will survive, and they know the way they're going to survive is they're going to basically disassociate themselves with a loser who right now Donald Trump is turning into a big, giant loser. Yeah. You want to talk about someone...
Even Steve Bannon.
Yeah. You want to talk about someone, the Republican Party, which, again, you have said on several occasions, has no moral core. You see how quickly they all dump him when they get their asses kicked in the midterms.
Yeah.
When they figure out that he is poison, you see how many of them all of a sudden gain a conscience and start reading the Constitution again and start realizing, like, hey, we're Congress. We actually have power over the purse.
So you bring up a good point. Dilip, what do you think the chances of Trump lasting the full term?
Well, if he doesn't get shot.
Barring anything tragic like that. Shot. Yeah.
Even though the first time it's now more and more looking like even that wasn't real the first time.
Right. At least Marjorie Taylor Greene is on that fence, but yeah.
Well, I mean his health. I don't know about his health.
Nobody knows about his health. Apparently he's 215 pounds.
Can I give you a prediction?
Tell me.
They're going to lose the midterms. Those Epstein files are going to come out. I think it's 0% chance that he lasts his entire term because of the Epstein files.
Do you think JD's going to take over?
Absolutely. I find that where there's
do you
smoke,
think he dies under weird terms?
No. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, I would have never expected so much pedophilia to be protected, right? But this man is protecting those, he is preventing them files to be released at all costs. And I said this before, if I was accused of being a pedophile, you could go through my phones, my emails, pull my house apart down to the fucking studs. Whatever you need to do to prove that I am not a pedophile, you go ahead, go for it. He's the complete opposite of that. Which means, and there's already reports out there, there's women saying that, he has sexually assaulted when younger, which means he's a pedophile, in my humble opinion. And if all those files get released, that evidence is going to be in there, and he's going to be forced to step down. That's my opinion.
And I think that, again, that goes to the point of when the Republican Party is basically viewed that he is not a resource anymore. He is a burden.
Oh, 100%.
That's when they'll jump ship.
The problem the Republican Party has is that they're going to have to explain why they protected a pedophile this entire time.
But the thing that gets me, and this is where the simple fact of the matter is that you watch videos and you learn things. The final order before he killed himself, Hitler's final order to his general was basically destroy Germany and kill everybody. And the generals would say, well, that will kill a lot of innocent people. And his point was, who cares? The good Germans are already dead anyway. Just get rid of them. This guy, if he stays in office, will take this country as low as it can get.
Well, he's doing that now.
But he will have absolutely no problem destroying the economy.
He's doing
absolutely
that now.
Even we haven't even begin to understand the depravity of someone. This guy, I learned something the other day, and it was one of those, like, such a beautiful morsel of truth. Again, it was from Tucker Carlson. Do you know why he bought Mar-a-Lago and turned it into a resort? Because they wouldn't let him in the Palm Beach country club. He came down to Palm Beach and he's like, I'd like to join the country club. And they're like, nah, you're a Queens scumbag. We're the hoity-toity, waspy Manhattanites. You're an outsider. That's why he set that up. He'll look at the Republicans as all of those people his entire life that shunned him. And he will sit there and be like, oh, you think you guys forget how much you got your ass kicked before I showed up, until I got every racist to follow us again and all that kind of stuff, and said the things you dog whistled about, but I actually said it and actually brought you victories. And because people were...
I was proud to be a racist.
Yeah.
You guys weren't.
Well, think about it. After the second Obama, when Mitt Romney ran, there were people that sat there and said, demographically speaking, with the larger Latino, larger immigrant population, the Republicans might never win the presidency ever again. And then Donald Trump came along and showed them how to do it. Be as racist as possible and go into the Rust Belt and basically stoke fears, and you have a wall that could possibly win.
What do you think, Dilip?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the Epstein thing. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see.
Of course, it's a theory. That's a theory.
It's a very, very, very in-depth and pretty close to proven theory.
But I think, you know, the whole Epstein thing has been just an absolute disgusting experience.
Yeah.
You know, it's this absolute shame.
Yeah.
And I still can't figure out how a high school teacher has emboldened himself with all these billionaires. Like, how did this guy even get there?
Yeah.
That
well,
whole
there's
story.
theories behind that too.
Yeah. I mean, he has
That
to
he might have been working for foreign governments. And
well, yeah, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably going to take 20
One thing
years.
I do believe is that he didn't commit suicide.
No,
That I
no,
don't believe.
I don't believe you
I
committed
believe
suicide.
in the minute of tape that just went away. Yeah,
I believe that was a total hit job. But yeah, I mean, let's wait and see. You know,
Yeah.
let's wait and see what's coming down the pipe here. A lot of interesting things are happening right now in the world.
Yeah.
I just think that right now, like you said, as a country, everything that we said was going to happen is happening even worse than we could have imagined. And I think one of the problems was in the first Trump administration, he had some competent people who were his guardrails. And because of that, people were like, hey, it wasn't that bad. It didn't. Everyone said he was going to do this, that, and the other thing. And it did. But no one realized that he had an actual, person in charge of the Department of Defense, or an actual attorney general who sat there and goes, yeah, no, I'm not going to, you lost the election. I'm not going after this.
Right.
Now he's surrounded himself with incompetent people, because incompetent people know that the only chance these guys ever had to be this high in the government was just basically to be buddies with him, which is why he has loyal people. Again, when you're an idiot, you surround yourself with idiots so that no one's there to challenge you.
Yes, man.
And yes, men and yes, women.
Yeah.
And it's to a point now that I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact of like, oh my God, what the fuck did we do?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that, I do think that, there's, I've said this before, and I work for a company that is headquartered out of Tennessee. So, a large portion of the people that are within my corporation probably voted for Trump. And I don't think that just because the fact, what I try to admonish a lot of my liberal friends about when we on our text threads and such as, stop saying that anybody who voted for Trump is a racist or an idiot. People are low information voters. They're trying to put food on the table. They're working long hours. They have their family to raise. Whatever the case may be. And so there's a lot of people that don't know all of the things that even we know when it comes to politics and social commentary and such that's going on now. So I think there is a large swath of the country that is waking up to the fact is like, well, this guy, sold us a bill of goods, and they didn't know what to believe when they saw all the Democrats saying that he's a liar and 14,000 lies. They don't know that, right? And when you watch Fox News for even a portion of your day, you're fed with so much extraordinary misinformation. I think there's a large portion of America that doesn't actually know what reality is. And so
this is how much of a broadcaster I am. We were talking about broadcasting. As a pure broadcaster, I almost respect the fact of how good a product Fox is.
Oh, it's
an
amazing.
Incredibly I honestly look at Fox News and then go watch MSNBC and CNN and sit there and be like, that looks like it's made by Hollywood professionals. This looks like a high school production. Like the difference in talent, the difference in production, the difference in graphics, the difference in everything. And the fact of the matter is of how bad liberals are in focusing a message. And like you talk about a Talrico or the mayor of New York, they are giving a masterclass
Yes.
in sticking to message.
Yeah, that's the problem with
because what Democrats have been doing for so long is they take the bait and then have a debate about transgender illegal immigrants in prison doing, and you're like, why are you having this debate? Have the debate about lowering costs. Have the debate about healthcare. Have the debate about student debt, which you have a documentary on them like that. Have that debate instead of having the debate about, you know, pronouns and stuff like that, which most people are like, what the hell, you know.
Real quickly, what's the name of that documentary? And it's on your website, right?
It's called University of Debt, The Price of Success. So we've been talking about budgets. $980 billion is the defense budget. The total student debt in this country is $1.2 trillion. Wow. It's higher than the national defense budget.
Explain to someone, and this is one thing that, like, I tell people, and my mom, when my mom told me this, and I tell it to younger people, they don't believe it. My mom in the 1960s, again, was grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She could have gone to the University of Wisconsin for free. I talked to so many people that live here in California, and they sat there and say, back in the day, you went to UCs for free. Like, it was just, if you got in, you went to UCLA and you walked out with no debt and you had a UCLA degree, and that's what how did it get from that to now hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt?
I know, real quickly, I know a friend of mine who, Stephen G., he's a USC Film School professor, dear friend of mine, and he graduated, I guess, about 10 years ago from USC, and I think his student debt was close to around like $400,000.
So this is an opening line in my film. I opened the film comparing the cost of my education, and I use this whenever I meet young people or meet anybody. I graduated from college in 1983, and so I ask people, what do you think the tuition was for my engineering degree at Cal State LA in 1983?
$20,000.
$5,000
per year or total?
Total. Yeah.
$5,000 per year or total?
I would say per year.
Per year. My tuition cost in 1983 was $85 per quarter.
Wow.
I graduated in 1983 with my bachelor's degree. My total cost, which includes tuition and books, was less than $3,000. The cost of the
look at Mike's face.
The cost.
And I had a football scholarship. So
Yeah.
I mean,
the cost of the parking at Cal State LA. Cal State LA is up on a hill.
yeah.
So there's two levels of parking. There's the permit parking, which you can park up on the top of the hill, which is where the campus building is. That was $5 a semester. But down at the bottom, which is a 400-foot climb, that was a quarter for 10 hours. And my father refused to pay the $5.
Nice, huh?
He used to say, you put the quarter and then you run up the hill. It'll be good for your character.
Yeah,
You know?
Absolutely.
The first year in college, I used to go by bus. Okay. So $85 a quarter. Today, the cost of the tuition at Cal State LA for the same bachelor's degree is around $12,000 a year. That's a state college.
So how did that happen?
How did that happen? So that's, again, explored in my film. Now, I was also a professor for 10 years. I was a faculty member at Cal Poly Pomona. So I've been part of the system. I was in the system. So you have several things going on here. The first problem is, why do we have all these administrators? Why do we have 20 different associate deans who do nothing? This is one of the reasons I left the university. And the pressure on the faculty, especially at the UC system, to bring in externally funded research is huge, because you're not going to keep your position. They're not going to give you tenure unless you bring in the money. So here's an interesting bit of economics. If you bring a grant into a university, and let's just pick a number. Let's say it's $1 million grant, okay? You win a research contract from whoever. National Science Foundation. Well, National Science Foundation right now has been slashed. But anyway.
Department of Defense.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. You bring in a research grant, right? You bring in $1 million. The university charges you an overhead factor on that grant. It's roughly 50 to 60% of the grant money goes directly to the administration. So $1 million grant is not $1 million grant. $500,000 to $600,000 will go directly to the president's office. You don't see that money. Now you're left with the $400,000 to actually do the work. So which means that if you're going to do a research project and I need $1 million because I got to hire students, I got to buy equipment, I'm testing a building for earthquake resistance or whatever I'm doing, I need $1 million. I can't ask for $1 million. I have to ask for $2 million because of the overhead factor. And that overhead factor is higher up the university chain that you go. At Cal Poly Pomona, where I taught for 10 years, the overhead factor at the time, we're talking now 30 years ago, was around 30%. The overhead factor at Berkeley and at Harvard is 70%. Okay? So that was the main reason that I left, because I said, what am I doing? Okay.
Right.
I mean, I'm the one who's going to do all the work to bring in the grant and to do the work and execute the research. And I'm going to do what? To make money for these guys?
Right.
Because the president of Harvard makes $10 million a year?
Wow.
Okay.
Mm.
The president of the president of the UC, the president of, well, Cal Poly Pomona doesn't make that much, maybe $250,000. But the president of UCLA, the coach, who's the highest paid civil servant in the state of California? Who gets the highest paid salary?
Probably the head basketball coach at UCLA or USC or
well,
football.
Again, under the state system.
Yeah.
USC is private.
Yeah, I mean UCLA.
But
yeah.
UCLA, the coach at UCLA, last time I checked, was making around $4.5 million a year, right? Okay. Now, I got no problem with that because he brings in a revenue. That's a profit-making system. But then that's fine. Then the athletes should also get paid, right?
Yeah, they just recently changed that.
And then that should be taken out of the UC system because that's a profit-making system. It should be a private corporation. It should pay tax, in my opinion. Just like the NBA and the NFL, who are, by the way, nonprofits that do not pay income tax. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, the NFL.
And they have an antitrust exemption.
Yes, and so the NFL, which brings in billions of dollars, does not pay any tax.
Wow.
The NBA does not pay any tax, and Major League Baseball, because they're nonprofit for the public benefit. Okay?
Wow. Did not know that.
Yes. So, okay, that's, those are the rules, all right? Now, if the Catholic Church is not paying a tax, I personally have a problem seeing the equivalence between the Catholic Church, the Hindu temple, the Sikh temple, or any religious institution and saying that they're on the same par with the NBA. I don't see the connection there, okay? And so why is it that the UCLA basketball coach gets $4 million and the students who are playing the game don't get anything?
Well, they recently just changed
they
that.
changed that.
Yeah.
But they changed it. But I mean, do you see where they changed it? But it's not anywhere close to the equality that it should be.
No, it's not. It's not. No,
well,
it's not.
Here's the interesting, and what I'm hearing you say is a lot of overhead was created that had nothing to do with
education,
the increasing the value of that student learning anything. It wasn't okay. Yours charged $85. Now it went to $12,000. You are now getting $11,915 in more of education.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you're just basically they're paying for more people to make more money.
They're
and
paying for
whatever.
more people to get more money. The overhead factors have gone out of control. The bureaucracy has grown out of control. And at the end of the day, it's still one teacher having to teach. At Cal Poly Pomona was pretty good. We used to have a class limit, which was enforced. We could not have more than 25 students in the class. But you go to UCLA. My son graduated from UC Santa Barbara. And you go to the chemistry class. There are 400 students there. And who's grading all the papers? So the professor comes in, it's a 400-student lecture hall, right? He doesn't know any of those students on a first-name basis, and then they're all being taught by graduate assistants. This is where I have a serious problem with that, and that's why I did not send my son to, my son chose to go to a UC. I'm very glad that I went to a state college because there's still some more individual learning that goes there. And now if you say, okay, well, I want to go to a private college, I want to go to USC, which is where I also did my graduate work, and then I also went to Caltech. Well, those schools, I mean, USC right now is $70,000 a year. It's more expensive than Harvard.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to graduate with a debt of $400,000 or $500,000?
Yeah.
You might as well just buy a house in Las Vegas and go be a bookie.
Which I respect bookies more than I do stockbrokers. Because at least I saw the Chiefs play the Steelers.
You can borrow that $400,000 and go buy a nice house in Las Vegas and go be a card dealer at Caesars and do just fine.
You know, gentlemen, I hate to say this, but Dilip, we're going to have you back, brother.
Oh, you're very kind. I think we're already keeping our...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We've exceeded our lease time.
Yes, we are.
It is time for us to... No. This has been a fantastic thing.
Yep.
No, I'm enjoying the conversation, and I hope I didn't...
This is what Mike and Ron here to help is here about.
Absolutely,
it's here to help.
Absolutely. So, Dilip, we're going to give you a final word. First of all, your website is Khatri Productions.com. KHATRI Productions, and all of your documentaries are on there.
Everything's up there, including my comedy routines.
Including your comedy routines.
Yes.
We have you if you're in Los Angeles. Well, you won't be seeing this by the time we do it, but tomorrow night we have him at the Comedy Chateau.
Thank you.
You're going to be knocking out some jokes out there. We're excited to see you get on stage again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a pleasure to meet you both.
This has been the illustrious Mr. You can see why Mr. Mike Sasson is one of my best friends in comedy.
Absolutely.
One of my best friends, period. Let's not ration it, not put it in a box. This has been yet another episode of the Mike and Ron
Here to Help
podcast with the illustrious Mr. Dilip Khatri.
Thank you very much for being here. Great.
Thank you very much.
Christian on the ones and twos. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll see you guys again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.